Fox News alert: Senate Republicans facing potential new roadblocks in their efforts to replace Obamacare after the Congressional Budget Office said millions of Americans could lose their insurance under the GOP's plan. This despite the CBO saying the measure would put a big dent in the federal deficit and lower premiums. This is Outnumbered. I'm Meghan McCain, here today, co-host of After the Bell on Fox Business, the lovely Melissa Francis, also from FBN, Dagan McDowell, also lovely, progressive radio host and Fox News contributor, the loveliest Leslie Marshall. And today's hashtag One Lucky Guy, the co-host of the Fox News Specialist.
The loveliest co-host.
And co-host of Cashing In, Eric Bolling. Eric's new book, The Swamp, Washington's Murky Pool of Corruption and Cronyism and How Trump Can Drain It, is on sale right now. Welcome back. You're outnumbered.
Everyone's
lovely.
Thrilled to be. Yeah, everyone's lovely.
Everyone's
today.
lovely.
We're all having a lovely day.
Congratulations. First day. Your book's out.
First day, book's out.
I can't wait to talk about it.
On Drudge already. The president already tweeted about the book.
It's really
We're
good.
going to have some fun with the book.
Yes.
I can't wait to talk about it.
And people
really
should
good.
know it's not a book about necessarily politicians, which was I thought it was a strict political book. It's about history.
I take you through the history of the Republic, but did you know inside that book there are pictures of D.C. being built on a literal swamp? The Capitol building in the mid-1860s being built on a swamp. They drained the literal swamp and they left the metaphorical swamp alone.
And now it's full of things even more annoying than the original mosquitoes.
You have no idea. They make the original swamp creatures look like little mosquitoes.
But we will be talking more about your book, I promise, later on in the show. But we have to get down to brass tacks. Let's begin. Today could be make or break for the Republican health care plan in the Senate, with a key procedural vote possibly in jeopardy in wake of the CBO score. It finds that 22 million more people would be uninsured by 2026, but that the Senate GOP's bill would cut the deficit by $321 billion by that same year, and that the average cost of premiums could be lower. While Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell wants a vote by the end of this week, the big question is whether he will have a vote at all. McConnell can't afford to lose more than 2 members of his own party, yet 6 Republicans remain opposed to the bill, and 5 GOP senators oppose a vote needed to allow the bill to move ahead for the floor debate. That vote could happen as early as this afternoon. But House Speaker Paul Ryan saying he would not bet against Mitch McConnell and expects the Senate to get their job done. Senate Majority Whip John Cornyn agrees, saying the stakes are just too high.
I expect to have the support to get it done, and yes, we will vote this week. I'm not willing to accept that we are not going to be successful, because I think the consequences are very bad. We know the Obamacare insurance markets continue to melt down, and millions of people are going to be hurt. They are being hurt right now.
As for the Democrat senators such as Dick Durbin say they'd be willing to work with Republicans to fix Obamacare if they drop their repeal efforts.
Once we put this bad bill behind us, I think we need a true bipartisan effort to deal with the things that need to be done to strengthen the Affordable Care Act. There are things that need to be repaired, and I voted for it. I'm proud to have done it. But I want to sit down with constructive Republicans who are not looking for a tax cut, but looking for ways to expand health insurance and make it more affordable.
Okay, Eric, I want to start with you, and I want to ask you, why should I trust the CBO score when in 2013 it estimated that 24 million people would have coverage under Obamacare? By 2016, it was off by 13 million
only 11
people.
Million actually.
13.
Right. So 24, they estimated 11 actually took the Obamacare. I don't know why you trust the CBO. I don't know why we trust the CBO with any of them, because I'm still trying to do now. Meghan, you and I have been on board with pushing back against this GOP bill from the very get-go. The original GOP House bill, we sat here when it was released, like literally 5 minutes prior, and we pushed back on it then. I don't know that this bill is that much better. I'll tell you what I do like better about this bill versus the Paul Ryan bill in the House is the $320 billion in savings versus the $100 billion with the House bill. And the other one, the premiums. Here's the really tricky part for the Republicans. Premiums will go up for the next year and a half. What happens in the next year and a half? You have an election. You have a midterm election. So premiums will rise into the midterm elections and then severely drop going forward after that to a point where somewhere around 30% lower than they are right now. But going into the re-election for all these House members, boy, how do you sell that? I just don't know how they sell that.
And I'll tell you why it's better. Because of the way the accounting works, if you push it back to the states, I mean, the federal government can deficit spend forever and ballooning.
Yeah.
When you put it back on the states, the way they do their budgets are so differently. I mean, they have to balance them. They can't just spend like crazy. Putting so much back for them to decide how the money's spent, that's a big improvement.
No doubt, but if you're an average American sitting in Kansas or Oklahoma and your premiums continue to go up for the next year and a half, and then you hear the Democrats hitting up all these Republican town halls this summer, what's your argument? How do you say, oh, don't worry, trust us?
Because you might actually have an insurance provider, because the premiums aren't just the problem, that they've doubled in the 39 insurance markets under Obamacare that are run by the federal government. It's the fact that you've lost your health insurer. As of this year, 1/3 of counties in this country only have one health insurer, and they've continued to drop out of state by state. You saw that happen with Anthem. And then your deductibles are going up. And your out-of-pocket costs are going up.
I do want to interject into this just 1 second, because we do have a tweet from Rand Paul, who will be meeting with President Trump, headed to meet with @RealDonaldTrump this afternoon. The bill is currently not real repeal and needs major improvement. So this is in the vein of how you feel, Eric.
Can I just ask? We have very, very smart people on this desk, on this couch right now. How in the world are we going to save $300 billion over 10 years, get premiums down over the next 9 or 10 years, and still provide insurance for millions of Americans? The math is just not adding up. Somewhere,
let's get Leslie in on this, though.
By the way, the way the premiums do go down is by putting a whole bunch of tax money at the premium.
But Leslie, you're obviously a liberal. Only 2 votes needed in order to sink this thing. What do you think the odds are it ends up passing?
I don't think it's going to pass. And one of the reasons is what I'm hearing from Republicans. And this is not, totally a partisan issue. This is, do we want to put profit over people? And a huge problem with Obamacare, and I will readily admit, as many Democrats will, are the rising premiums. This doesn't address the rising premiums for 1 and 2. Originally, when we needed health care reform, because people were going to the ER, they had no insurance, they had no preventative care. My husband's a physician. I own part of a medical center. This is a huge problem. This is going to be worse because you're going to have rural hospitals closing when you have Medicaid cut over time. And in addition to that, if you don't have a mandate and people don't have to buy insurance, what happens? There are less people on the insurance rolls, and what happens to the premiums?
No.
They go up higher.
I totally disagree with you guys, because it's going to happen in the risk pools. Eric, you know this well. If they do the reinsurance on the risk pools, that's the way to expand that money and help it cover more people. It's complicated. It's calculus. It's a lot of math. We won't know until it's there how well it's working, but that's the only way it works. Those risk pools can't be all taxpayer money. You put the taxpayer money in to start it, but private equity, Wall Street, everybody's chomping at the bit to get in on the reinsurance market on those risk pools. That's where it all lies.
I'm still trying to do the straight arithmetic on it, where we're going to get a tax cut. We're going to get a budget savings of $300 billion. Premiums are going to go down, and more people are going to get insured.
It doesn't work. It's the risk pool. You know that math.
But part of the problem
I don't get the math. I honestly don't get that math.
But if you have people like Eric and I who ideologically don't find a lot of common ground, both of us dissatisfied with this bill, it's a huge loss.
Well, here's the alternative that Rand Paul, being the foolhardy senator that he is, doesn't realize. If he doesn't take the opportunity to use this reforms the individual insurance market. It reforms and budgets an open-ended entitlement and cuts taxes by $700 billion. You're getting in bed with Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer's road is single payer. Single payer as Medicare is going broke in 11 years. 87 cents on the dollar is what's going to be paid. We're going broke. Seniors insurance is going to get cut. They can't fix that. So that's the road to health insurance for the American people. That is ludicrous.
But there should be a third alternative. It can't be Obamacare anymore. And for my money, maybe not this one either.
Listen to Dagan, though. Broke in 11 years under single payer.
Broke in 11 years, 87 cents on the dollar, and they won't do a doggone thing about it.
Broke in 11 years. We have to move on. Meantime, President Trump is declaring a big victory amid his push to secure the nation. The Supreme Court yesterday allowing key parts of the president's temporary ban on travel from 6 majority Muslim countries to move forward. The court will hear full arguments on the order this fall, but the State Department says parts of the ban take effect this Thursday. The president tweeting last night, Quote, great day for America's future, security, and safety, courtesy of the U.S. Supreme Court. I will keep fighting for the American people and win. But Democratic National Committee Chairman Tom Perez says the battle is far from over, tweeting, we won't let prejudice shut the door of progress. If you choose to govern through hatred, we will fight this every step of the way. Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano today calling the Supreme Court's decision, quote, profoundly significant. Watch.
There were about 42, 43 judges that looked at this before it got to the Supreme Court, and 92% of them said the president doesn't have this authority. It's a Muslim ban. Listen to what he said about Muslims during the campaign. Supreme Court of the United States looked at what the president wrote, looked at the Constitution, looked at what Congress authorized the president to do pursuant to the Constitution, and said, you know what? He can do this.
You know, Eric, originally people were caught up on the word ban, saying it was discriminatory, Supreme Court obviously disagrees.
And the good news is that there were 9 Supreme Court justices, and it's been reported by Sean Spicer and others that all 9 were in favor of at least keeping partial the travel moratorium in place for now. I think it points out what 2 things happened here. It points out the activist judges that are going on in the 9th and the 4th circuit courts. They don't want Donald Trump to get any of his his security measures through. And the other one is it's profoundly important to realize that Donald Trump is president. He's got 1 Supreme Court justice in Neil Gorsuch placed. He'll probably have a second one within a year in Kennedy, and maybe a third if Ruth Bader Ginsburg decides to step down in the next 4 or 8 years. That means Donald Trump, because you elected a conservative versus Hillary Clinton, you've moved the court for many, many decades to the right, and that's good news for the country.
Dagan, the justices are still going to hear arguments in October, so we shouldn't get ahead of our skis just yet. There's still going to be arguments.
Yeah, and there's a group of more than 50 lawmakers, Republican lawmakers, who want Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg to recuse herself from this decision making because of what she said about Donald Trump. I don't think, or President Trump.
Really quickly, we have that sound from Judge Napolitano on Justice Ginsburg.
The Supreme Court has addressed that a long time ago. Having been a lower court judge, I know what it's like when your bosses tell you got to get off a case because of something you said about the case before I came into your courtroom. Those rules don't apply to the Supreme Court. So Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg will sit on the court. Hey, she was with everybody else today.
That's true.
We don't know where she will be on the substantive issue, but that effort by those 58 people, perhaps well-intended, is a non-starter.
I just want to point out that this decision by the justices, not only to let the travel ban move ahead, at least most of it, and then rule on the merits of the case later on this year, it does send a message to these lower court justices that you don't get to trample on the Constitution of the United States simply because you don't like the commander-in-chief. And that's exactly what's been going on.
Leslie, were you for this travel ban?
No, I'm not. And I do call it a Muslim ban. And in addition to that, this does not, I feel, make America safer. One of the huge issues that we have is with ISIS and the way they recruit, which is online. When we look at the terrorist attacks worldwide, we have a lot of people that are coming out of Belgium. We have people that are coming out of the UK. Those countries are not on the list. And in addition to that, when you look at the terrorist attacks in this country, largely Americans and even their ancestry are not from these nations, and it's for 90 days. So I don't feel this makes America safer. I think we do need stronger vetting procedures.
Why are you and the left calling it a Muslim ban?
Because you're dealing, because Eric, look, there are people right now in Belgium that this is where you see all these people coming out of, going to the UK, going to France.
Every single problem
There are 100 countries that are predominantly Muslim as well that aren't included in.
What does this do for the lone wolf? I'm not Muslim.
Your ban, your word. That's my point. Your Muslim ban.
What does this do for the lone wolf sitting right now at their computer?
Solve that problem, we should do it. I mean, it goes to governments that are a failed state. They're a failed state. They can't verify the background of people coming over. It's so straightforward.
Have a stronger vetting. Don't single out certain nations, because there are people, and not just of Muslim faith, who live in these countries. Or how about a woman or child in Iran being oppressed who wants to seek refuge and asylum in the United States?
Coming from this country.
Well, they're being banned too.
Yeah, exactly. Really? Because they have a
in predominantly
fail-safe, and that's why
Muslim
it's not a
nations.
Muslim land. That's why
I
it's not
disagree.
a Muslim
It's
land.
predominantly
I would
Muslim
love to
countries.
keep watching this because it's very entertaining. Move on. The U.S. is gathering new intel out of the Middle East, saying it suggests the Assad regime in Syria might be plotting another heinous chemical attack on its own people. President Trump's stern message for the Syrian government. Plus, it's no secret Democrats are unhappy with the Republican plan to repeal and replace Obamacare, and now the left is doing whatever it can to get in the way. But are they helping or hurting their own cause? We'll be right back.